It's me again. Maybe a bad time. I don't know who else is streaming or whatever. Hey now, how are you? Welcome to my chat. I was sitting here thinking, we've got somebody running around hollering, oh, we're all creators and we're all exploiting a child. Well, I went on Google and I looked up the definition of exploitation of a child on social media. Hey, Rhonda. And what her mother was doing and posting all those pictures of Summer online on TikTok and on Facebook, and some of those pictures with Summer's legs spread open, sitting in a chair, those pictures of her dancing around the barrel, even the pictures of her angry and crying and making bad faces and stuff, that's exploitation of a child. The mother herself was exploiting her daughter on social media. And what the mother is doing now, right now, collecting all the cash apps, is exploitation of a child. They're not even calling her by her name. It's that girl. I watched a stream get shut down last night because she was called that effing girl. Did y'all catch that? Hey, Becky. Hey, Trina. And in the meantime, they have time to call out other people who's doing nothing more than trying to help Summer. I just watched a video where somebody in the chat was trying to offer Candus prayers and said that she had been praying for her the whole time Summer was missing. Candus just ignored her and was just looking through the cash app or looking through the chats for the cash apps and the gang or the gang bang, whatever it is. I'm not familiar with it. Hey Oreo, how are you? So she was not worried about the prayers for that girl, as they refer to her, or that little girl. It was the cash apps that come along with that little girl. That's exploitation of a child. That's what that is. And yes, I'm mad about that. It has gotten slap ridiculous. Yep, that's it. That's it. That's exactly right. Ridiculous. And here's the thing. Summer Moon Utah Wells was with Candus last for sure. And let me tell y'all something else that I caught just a few minutes ago. If you go back to the interview that the grandma did with WJHL, listen real close, because what she says is they went to Walgreens, they filled the prescription, they waited for the prescription, and then they went to Warriors. And that is exactly what she says. She does not say they dropped the prescription off, and while they waited, they went to Warriors, like Candace has been saying all this time, and then returned back to Walgreens to pick up the prescription. Nay, that is not what Grandis says. Grandis says they went and filled the prescription, they waited for the prescription, and then they went to Warriors. Go back and watch that again and see if you don't catch that slip right there. And she says it so fast that if you're not looking for her to slip on something, you wouldn't catch it. But she said it. So I'm thinking she wasn't even there. Now, I seen a video earlier where Allison and Sherry said that they fish in the same spot. But when they go fishing, they fish downstream to the right, which would be past that big log, the one that's in the water where the rocks was at. Y'all know the big log where I'm talking about to the right? That's where they go fishing at. That's where those big rocks were at. Now, if you remember, Candace says, Hunter went that way for some reason. He split off and he went to the right while they were at Warriors. Now, who's to say that they did not actually, during that whole time that they were down there, that she did not start off swimming on the right, or after the video was taken, they didn't move down to the right where nobody could see them even further down. And that child didn't slip on a rock, just like Hunter said. Because Allison and Sherry said in that interview that Jonathan Lee Riches released today, when they go fishing in the same spot, but it's off to the right. Well, off to the right is past that log and down there by those rocks. Just 10 steps further to the right. Think about that. Whatever happened, though, Hunter hasn't been right since. It messed him up so bad that he was just sitting there rocking back and forth. And it happened before 2:30 when he was brought back home. Right? If he was really brought back home at 2:30. But so far that fits. Cracking Cases went back for the second time and they recorded those big rocks down past that tree that's down on the right there. And they said, well, see, these rocks are not even where Summer was swimming. Well, I understand that. But now Sherry and Allie has come in and said, well, they fish in the same spot. However, it was just down to the right. Hunter says she slipped on a rock. Just because that 30-second video shows that she was right there in the beginning does not mean that she was not down on that right hand side where they always were at. Because Candus does say when she first got out of the car, she run to the water. Now, if she run to the water and she got in, Candus could have said, hey, there's a better spot down here. Let's go down here. It does. It just adds to the crap show. Especially when you've got one sitting there rocking like Jacqueline West. Did y'all see how much that woman was moving? Boy, she was just a rocking and a moving. She was either on crack. I don't know what was wrong with that woman, but she was moving like she was about to break out in some sort of break dance or something. She had it going on, boy. She was just a moving. I don't know. Breaking Bad. But I tell you what, they all need their heads smacked together for even letting their kids live like that. All of them. They're all guilty. All of them are guilty for letting those kids live like that. Right, all that swaying, man. She should have been standing right between Jacqueline and Trezelle West. She would have fit right in. We could have made a Muppet show out of that shit. Fact stands. She was with Candus last. And let me ask y'all something. Andrew Hills. They supposedly drove 2 days straight. Some of them riding in the back of a Penske truck or a U-Haul truck, whatever it was, to get down there. They get there the day of the race. Okay? The day of the race, they get there. Are you going to feel like going to a NASCAR race if they even made it in time to get there that day? It wouldn't have mattered. All the hotel rooms would have been empty that night because the race was happening that day. Something is wrong with that story. They had something in that truck besides people. There's more to that story than just coming to the races. Because you don't drive 2 days and arrive the day of and maybe not even make it in time to even get there. So what? They get to the racetrack and they've got people jumping out the back of trucks would like to see ticket stubs. That would be the receipts that I would like to see. Where is your ticket stubs? Because I tell you what, when I go to NASCAR races, and I have been to a few, I save my ticket stubs and I put them in a scrapbook. Most people do, just like concert tickets. I save my concert tickets and I put them in a scrapbook. So my thing is, show me the receipts. If you was really there for a race, then you've got a receipt for that race, right? Somebody out of all those people saved a NASCAR receipt. Because they didn't expect to get to the gate and buy all those tickets, right? I don't know what they were doing. See, Andrew Hilt says they always come down there for a race, and that's why he comes to see Hunter, a couple times a year. And he come to see a race, and he keeps using the race as a receipt, race day as a receipt. But they leave the day after the race. Makes not a bit of sense to me. So it sounds like they got a truck full of drugs, to me, is what it sounds like. Just saying. That's in my opinion. That is allegedly. I have no proof of that. But you've got people driving a Penske truck 2 days all the way to Tennessee to turn around and go back the same day or the day after. And they leave one person behind. Sounds a little fishy to me. I don't know. Like I said, if they were really there for the races, like Andrew says, somebody's got a NASCAR receipt. These folks, I think all of them are messed up, because you've got Sherry over here saying that she knew 2 years ago that the youngest child had said she had been touched up there. I'm not going to use the words for it. But they continue to let all their kids go up there. They continue to take all their kids up there. And one time it was because puppies had been born, and they went up there for the benefit of the kids. If there's a chance in hell that your kids are going to be abused, it's not ever in the benefit of the kids to take them anywhere. So it sounds like to me that Candus and Hunter were the last 2 people on this earth to see that little girl. And that little girl has a name. Her name is Summer. And it makes me so mad that they will not use her name. Exactly, Becky. None of them reported it. None of them reported it. But they could use CPS to when they got mad at one another. Candace could call CPS and tell them, "Oh, well, they're giving them weed and alcohol down there." And then they could call the CPS on Candace and say, "Oh, they're giving them weed and alcohol up there." And that's why CPS would just kind of go up there and knock at the door and leave a note and just not really be adamant about getting in, is because they had played this game between all these people for so long that it become a cat and mouse game between all these people. It sounds like they were calling CPS on each other back and forth weekly or bi-weekly. And it got to where CPS just either wasn't going, or CPS was ignoring, or CPS was just going and knocking at the door and leaving a little card in the door or something. And that's horrible, to think, well, this really wasn't looked into because they have been using CPS as a football back and forth, back and forth. And I'm guessing that's what happened with CPS and why CPS didn't follow through the way that they should have. And somebody needs to hold CPS responsible for that. But I can understand why they did it. I've seen the same thing here on YouTube with content creators calling CPS on one another. And then it gets to where somebody's had 25 calls on them and CPS just won't go anymore. We've all seen that happen. And sad to say, and now after seeing, what I seen on that video today, I strongly believe that was CPS's position with both families. And in my opinion, it still needs looked into about them continually taking those kids up there, and those kids are still around Sherry and Allison, and the same thing. It looks like the same thing is going on in her house that was going on in Candace's. Honestly, it's starting to look like one big ring, is what it's looking like to me. And that's you can agree with me or you can disagree with me. That's the great thing about America. It was a video that Jonathan Lee Riches put out, and I normally do not watch his stuff at all. But he released one this morning, and it was a interview that he done with Allison's mother, and Allison's grandmother. Exactly, trafficking their own kids. And it spans, I think it spans from New York to Tennessee. Everybody that is involved with these people are just twisted, and something's wrong with the whole picture. Something's wrong with everybody that comes in contact with these folks. It's what it seems like to me. Who doesn't report their 6 or 7 year old kid being abused and then turn around and take them right back up there? Who doesn't report their 12-year-old being abused and given drugs and given alcohol and take them right back up there? Come on now. Well, Jose lived there. Jose come down with them. So whatever they were involved in, he was involved in. Jose was involved with Sherry and Allison, and then involved with Candace and that. So of course he's involved in it, and he certainly did nothing to remedy the situation. And if you are not part of the solution, you are the problem. When him and Grandis got in that truck and she was leaving to take him wherever she was taking him to, whether it was North Carolina or South Carolina, you know that they talked about the conditions within that home. That was a long drive. Hey, Aussie lady. And you know that they talked about Don Wells. You know that they talked about Candace. They talked about that whole situation on that long drive to South Carolina. He had time to process every bit of that through his brain. He had time to process everything that had happened through his brain and verbalize it. I've been on long car drives with somebody, and I know the things that come out that you talk about. So he had time to process it and verbalize it, and he chose not to pick up that phone and call CPS or the police. And that's my point. He contributed not one bit to a solution. Let me tell y'all just a real quick story. A lot of y'all know that I'm an EMT. And the last person that I seen that had a house that looked like Candace's, that lived like they do, that was strung out on the meth like they were, she decided that she was going to fry fish in a fry daddy. And she walked away to go in the bedroom to smoke meth. And the 2-year-old baby come by and he pulled the cord on the fry daddy, and all that hot grease come off on him, head to toe, just covered in hot boiling grease. And that's the kind of stuff that I have to deal with people like Candace and them and Allison. And this whole situation just disgusts me because I deal with it on a daily basis anyway, most of the time. And her mother beats us to the hospital. And she says, I've been waiting on something like that to happen. We've known for a long time that there was going to be a bad accident in the house. Well, lady, why haven't you done called somebody and done something about it before it come to this? And I don't show my emotions when I'm out there. But Lord, when I leave, sometimes I just have to hit my knees and just sit on the concrete and cry. I'm okay with what adults do and what adults do to themselves. I could really care less. But when it comes to kids and what adults do to kids, I've never been able to get used to that. Ever. That's something you never get used to seeing. That's something you never get used to dealing with. And it seems the problem is getting worse. Exactly. And burnt himself on a wood heater because them adults are too high and too lazy to put wood in it theirself. That's where one of those children is trying to feed that wood heater to keep the other kids warm. Think about that. That is where a child is trying to take responsibility of feeding wood into a wood heater to keep the younger kids warm. I live in the South. I know all about those wood heaters. And it's nothing for a kid to play with. And again, they knew about that and they did or said nothing. Yes, those kids were raising themselves. Sad. Hey, Lisa. So, Candace, where is Summer? Where is she? And after listening to that 911, so a couple of you were in here for my live earlier, and now it's stuck in my head after listening to that 911 call again last night about the mother is taking a walk and blah blah blah. I'm wondering now if maybe she didn't lure the dogs off through the woods. If the dogs is the key. Just a thought. If she made it home, if she didn't slip on those rocks. But I find it funny that they mentioned that area again. That Sherry and Allison even brought up where they fished at further down. After Hunter broke down, because Sherry did say, no, Allison said, and after he broke down, I had to call the TBI again. So I do think Hunter may have told the TBI what happened. Maybe. If she had fell down those stairs, or if she would have hit that tree swinging, those scent dogs would have picked up on any kind of blood. And I could say, okay, well, if they just had one dog, there's a possibility that they could have missed that. But they had dogs on top of dogs on top of dogs, scent dogs that come in. And there's just no trace of her. So, Candace, where is she? And I heard something today. I'm going to share it with you guys. This last search that was done, I caught a few minutes of one of Candus's lives, and she's crying and she's whining. The TBI did not notify her. They did not tell her anything about the search. And she was comparing herself to Brandy Neal and the monkey situation, and she's just throwing a fit there that the TBI don't notify her, or Hawkins County don't notify her of any searches or anything. Well, the next thing you know, Sheriff Lawson is saying that, and he looks mad. Sheriff Lawson's on TV, and he's saying that they have lawyered up. Tim Mullins is associated with a group of attorneys and a law firm. Fact. Fact. Bet money on that. Second of all, I think her buddy over there may have called Sheriff Lawson and threatened him. Said, hey, if you don't start telling Candus when you do searches, we're just going to hire a lawyer. Or said he was an attorney or whatever. Because if you will go listen to the beginning of the live that he done this morning, he says, oh, I act as an attorney, blah, 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 blah. Go listen to the first 30 minutes of his rant this morning about how he acts as the Wells attorney. And then he says, no, but I know a good attorney. Well, I bet he does, since Tim Mullins is. So I think Sheriff Lawson got a phone call from, and we've seen that threat before, like when Brian Enton was coming and he started getting threatening phone calls too. Just like when Mr. Upchurch was going to start looking into Summer's case and he starts getting threatened and harassed, and same difference. So bet your ass that Mr. Mullins has got attorneys. You can take that to the bank. Oh, Tim Mullen is creepy, creepy, creepy with a twisted, sick sense of humor. Starting with his Facebook that has caught everybody's attention to where he has tried to push content creators to make crazy videos on stuff, just like he started the thing about y'all remember when a couple of content creators done the thing on the organ harvesting? Tim put that out there. One of his Facebook posts said something about a good friend of his had a 5-year-old little boy, and the 5-year-old little boy was going to die if he didn't get a liver transplant or a heart transplant or something. And thank God that he got one at the last minute. And that was posted like 5 days after Summer come up missing or something. And if you go back and look at the guy that he tagged in the Facebook post, it says that he works for CPS. Now, whether he does or not, I don't know. But I don't know if people realize how much organ rejection drugs and stuff a kid would have to have, and blah, blah, blah. And all that's traceable through pharmacies and stuff like that. And that's so far out there. But Tim put that out. He wants to fuss about how content creators go so far, but he's the one that puts it out there for them to grab a hold of, you see, and run with it. And then he thinks it's funny when they do. And there's nothing funny about putting out misinformation and leading information that leads to misinformation. You know, first he said that he was not associated at all with the SDA church, but then he starts posting on when the summer and winter solstices are, and when the new moon and stuff like that comes out. And it was not even correct. When you go back and you look, it wasn't even the correct timing for it. He was off by so many days. So he put that out there, you know, with all that theory. But he puts it out there, people grab a hold of it and they run with it, and he laughs about it. And he's done a lot of that. If you notice, Reverend Donna had said something about the psychic. Reverend Donna had said something about a horse barn that had doors that opened out or something. And the last couple of his videos, he has featured on the thumbnail a horse barn with doors that open outward. And that's his thumbnail. And it's a horse barn there in Kingsport. I guess they house horses or what have you. I'm really not sure. And everybody's like, oh, look, see, there's that horse ranch that Reverend Donna had been seeing, and blah, blah, blah. And he does that on purpose. He puts that stuff out there on purpose. And then he whines and cries about misinformation being out there after he's the one that puts it out there. And just absolutely disgusting man. He is also the one that is behind the video camera at the SDA church making all the videos and stuff. That's when a church took him down. All the close-ups and stuff of why, and I would like to know why he focused on Summer so much. That would be a good question. But he's the one that done most of the church's videos and stuff. Y'all didn't know that, did you? Because he is associated with the SDA church. He said he wasn't because he didn't want people to know he's the one that done all the videos and put the programs together and all that stuff. Right? Well, he said he never met Candace until the parade, and that is just not true because there's video showing him at the first prayer vigil. There, his Facebook post says that on June the 19th that he had went up there to meet the family, and people that had screenshotted who did what in the church and what roles that they played in the church has got some of his information like that. So, I mean, he's lied from the very beginning. Angel Talks Too Fast has busted him on a whole lot of lies. And when he's going in that one video through Beach Creek and stuff, he's avoiding those roadblocks. And I'm wondering who's with him because he keeps saying we. And I'm willing to bet that it may be Robin Lane that's riding around with him. I'm not sure. Right, Becky. Right. But I'm trying real hard to stay out of that rabbit hole that leads me back to the church because the last time I went down that rabbit hole with the church, I got deep in that rabbit hole. I think Oreo was here when I was in that rabbit hole with the church. There's still a few of my subs that's around that was around when I was stuck in that rabbit hole. That was a deep, dark rabbit hole. So I'm trying really, really hard. You know, Robin has been caught 2 or 3 times changing her story. If you go back and see what she originally told in the Rogersville Review, and then go back and listen to the interview that she done with Chris McDonough, she pushes her time back by more than an hour. So she has adjusted her time as well. On top of crossing out the red truck on the flyers. But somewhere or another, Miss Pack a Snack has lost an hour somewhere. And it floors me how these people just all have lost an hour. Like it's daylight savings time or something. And the TVI just don't care. Well, answer me this. Answer me this. If you, out of everybody that you can call in the whole world, why would you call a mortician? I'm waiting. I'll wait right here. They don't call the pastor. And most people would. They call their pastor, right? For for prayer. But no, they don't choose to call the pastor. They call the bread lady, which is the Sunday school teacher, and they call a mortician. Think about that. Just let it sit. Some people say you better call Saul, but she calls him mortician. And that has always bothered me. And I've tried to not go down that hole too with David Dotson. But that question has lingered in my head. You know, being a first responder, being search and rescue, you call a lot of people when a child goes missing, right? You call a pastor, you call your mom, you call your dad, you call your best friend. Calling a mortician is just usually not on that list. You call 911, they send search and rescue, they send sometimes a CMTs, they send the police. They don't normally send a coroner or a mortician to the scene of a lost child. And he had only been with the church at that time like a week or something like that. So it's not like it wasn't a long time. I don't know who Rox is. And Robin Lane's ex-husband has family on the North Carolina side that also has a mortuary. So she calls two people that's associated with mortuaries. Bothersome. So I said it's just not on your list of people you would normally call. Or I wouldn't. And like I said, I've been on the ground with a lot of search and rescue teams, but I can't ever recall a mortician being there with us. Not unless we actually recover something. I do know that the grand jury in Tennessee is starting to meet. Indictments roll out next month. So cross your fingers. Cross your fingers is all I can say. I know day before yesterday, the district attorney, the defense in the Megan and Evelyn Boswell case, the defense was filing motion on top of motion on top of motion. So maybe the jury would not get a hold of every photo, every audio file, every text file, and all the thousands of social media files that Megan Boswell left behind. They didn't want the jury acting on emotions alone because it was going to be so bad. Now, they found that body fairly quick. It was within a couple of weeks of her being reported missing. And if they've got what they said were thousands of social media records, hundreds of audio files, and hundreds of text files, hundreds of photograph files in that case. Can you imagine what they have in the Wells case? Just social media alone. Look at how many times then people have been on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and whatever else they have, social media wise, that we don't even know about. I know I don't have like any of the other popular social media platforms going around. So like I said, I don't know what they would have beyond that. But could you imagine all the thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of social media files, text files, audio files that they are going to have in a Wells case? It is going to be, and see, they're going to file for a change of venue in the Megan Boswell case. And they are going to have to file for a change of venue in the Summer Wells case as well when they do make an arrest. I don't think that they will be trying it in Hawkins County if and when they do make an arrest. They said Evelyn's autopsy was just bad enough without the social media, the audio, the text, the everything. And the prosecution was pushing to let the jury see everything. So we'll see how they rule on that. Hope for the best. Well, Oreo, there is a lot of rabbit holes. And I'm hoping, like Josh said, maybe they have not released the 911 calls because they are saving those for the grand jury. And maybe they've not released a lot of other things to preserve that for the grand jury. So maybe there is so many loose ends that we can't tie together because the evidence has been preserved for the grand jury. And that's what I'm hoping. Who's to say every time that they have searched out in those fields, especially after that fire and the floods, that they did not find something out there? a piece of clothing, a piece of bone, anything. Thank you. Oh, I am so done with the drama channels. And like I posted on our community post, I just will not click another link that has Jose in the title. I am so over Jose. It's sickening because he failed those kids just as much as the rest of them did. And look, he was paid to be here. He was a paid participant. And that's the only reason he come forward. Right. Yeah, I've always thought that between Tim Mullen and David Dotson, if you took those two faces and put them together, you would have that Darren Stevens look. If you morphed them together, you would almost have that perfect. Yeah, I think that's something else. See, that's something else that he threw out there to cause more drama. And that was another stick that he threw at Miss Donna there, I believe. And I'm still looking for answers to the deal about Candus's stepson. I still want that answered. Which one of those boys is her stepson? Or does Don have another son in the Tennessee community? Which means there would be another family that Summer could be living with somewhere. Or are the rumors true and Don Jr. was in and out of there throughout that year? And I keep asking these questions every time I see Candace in a chat somewhere, and it just keeps being ignored. I cannot get the question answered to save my life. And I don't believe that was just, he said that by accident. I think that was thrown out there like a dart. So if anybody knows the answer to that little ditty, I would appreciate that. Yeah, she does look like Don Jr. At one time, I thought maybe she even belonged to him. But then if you look at Don's oldest daughter, Margie. She looks like Margie too. It's the eyes. Definitely. But I thought, well, maybe she belonged to Don Jr. while he was in jail and was staying with Don and Candus. And then when he got out of jail, he come took his kid back. They got mad. Because she looks just like Don Jr. to me. I do too. And you know, every day I keep saying, I'm going to move away from this case. I'm going to get away from it. I'm going to get on another one. And I'll move to like the Oakley Carlson case, or in the last few days, I've covered, that little bit on the Evelyn Boswell case. But I still keep coming back to Summer. And it isn't the money, because y'all can check Social Blade. In 8 months' time, I have made like $26 on YouTube. Oh, wow. That does not even cover a month's worth of subscription services. So it's definitely not the money. I do it because I care. I guess. There's something that keeps drawing me back to it. Oh, and when I was doing this bit of research, this was something else I wanted to share with you guys. I had said something earlier about the QR codes on Instagram and Snapchat, and that's how the kids were getting their drugs and stuff. And some of the traffickers using codes on social media and stuff. Do you know when y'all see pizza and cheese together, emojis and stuff? Pizza and cheese signifies from one pedo to another that they have images to trade of small children. Look it up. So anytime you see pizza and cheese together, emojis, that's a signal from one pedo to another that they have images of small children to trade. And cherries was another one. And that one set off something in my head about Rose Bly having cherry tattoo on her. They kept saying that she had that cherry tattoo. And cherries was markings for human trafficking. When I was up at the tat shop earlier, he was telling me, like, if you see somebody with, like, down their neck, a woman that has, like, say, for example, an X, a V, and an I in Roman numerals down the side of her neck right here, that means she's worth $16 as a human trafficking mark. If however many marks she's got right here in Roman numerals, that's how much she's worth. and that's a human trafficking mark. And I had no idea. I have been around tattoos all my life, and I've seen people. I've got an ear tattoo over here, but it's just of a flower. But these were numerals down the side of their neck. And it's how much she's worth. And it's a human trafficking mark. So if you ever see that, if you ever see anybody out and you see the Roman numerals on their neck, behind their ear right here, they're being trafficked. I did not know that. That was interesting to learn. He said that he trains all of his guys up there. Anybody that brings in even small kids, they have to have. Well, for one, they don't do small kids, but teenagers like that's close to, looks like they're close to 18 or anything, they have to have a birth certificate and an ID. But they have to call CPS or the police if anybody tries to bring in a small kid. That's their policy. But he said that there's tattoo artists, like especially on the West Coast, that don't give a damn, that they'll tattoo anybody. And because I asked him, I said, what kind of tattoo artist would tattoo a small child? Because there was one 11-year-old I was reading about that had dollar signs tattooed on her eyelids. That's how they had marked her. And he said evidently they pay them very well and make it worth their while. And he said, but by law they are supposed to call the police and call Child Protective Services. And I'm like, that's just wrong. Well, I knew like on the wrist, to watch for the barcodes and numbers on the wrist and stuff, but I had just never paid any attention to what people put behind their ears and their necks. Much less Roman numerals. I'm surprised, people even, there's even people left that can read Roman numerals. Especially in the trafficking world. And that was one thing that surprised me. I was like, there's so many illiterate people out there on the streets, and these young kids, are being trafficked. They can't read Roman numerals. They don't even know what in the hell is being put on them. They have no clue what that means. And Jesus Christ, you mean to tell me she ain't worth but $30? This one ain't worth but $16. This one ain't worth but $11. Come on, dude. Their self-worth is worth more than that, for Christ's sakes. It was just it's just a horrifying subject. It's a scary subject. Well, some of them that I was looking at online, where they tattooed their names on them and stuff. They said that they would have like barcodes up underneath the names to where you could actually scan it with a QR scanner, like with your phone. you could scan that tattoo because there was a barcode up underneath it, and it would tell you how much she was worth. That when they pull them out of and rescue them from these trafficking operations, that they would have to get that out of them and then find somebody to cover that tattoo. I mean, just absolutely wrong. Just wrong. I said one little girl wasn't but 11 and they had dollar signs tattooed on her eyelids. How do you even get rid of something like that? And that had to be painful. I'm a tattoo person and I just could not imagine tattooing my eyes or my eyelids. That would be horrifying. It is. That would be a nightmare. I've never got the permanent makeup done. Columbus, Georgia is down there by Fort Benning, isn't it? Yes, I know it is because that's where my son was stationed for a while. Yeah, Columbus. Well, that's why I never had the permanent makeup done. It's because I knew one lady that had it done, and 10 years later, it was like her eyeliner looked like it was way down here. And it just looked bad. Looked really bad. Maybe one day I feel comfortable enough doing it, but I've just never wanted to go up really past up on my neck or anything yet. I've still got a little bit of real estate left on my arms and stuff to work on. I don't know. We live in what's supposed to be a first world country, right? Not a second world country or a third world country. We are supposed to be a first world country, leader of all things. But yet we are branding human beings like we branded slaves 2 and 3, 400, 500 years ago. There's something wrong with the picture. When we are branding human beings for sale at any age, whether they be 5 or 25. It's worse when they're little, but it is bad at any age. It's horrifying when they're babies. It is a nightmare. But it's tragic that we are branding human beings at any age. Like I said, we are living in a first world country. So why are we dealing with the problem of selling human beings in 2022. We have got social justice warriors out here wasting their breath and their time complaining about monuments, complaining about this, complaining about that. And these monuments aren't moving. They're not attacking anybody. They're not doing anything. They're just standing there, made of concrete, made of marble. But we have problems such as people branding people and selling them for $16, $11, $30, and doing God knows what to them. We can't even say that on YouTube. But there's no social justice warriors for that. You see what I'm saying? Thank you, dear. I appreciate that so much. Where are the social justice warriors that like to gripe and complain about everything? Where are they? Oh, you should have seen what they done to the Francis Key statue down here. And all he was guilty for was writing the Star Spangled Banner. I think that a year and a half later, they're still trying to get pink paint off of him and black paint. And those statues are standing, not doing nothing to anybody, and can be dealt with at any time later. So why not spend your energy and your breath if you want to be out doing activism for somebody that matters? Put your energy into perhaps stopping human slavery in 2022 instead of worrying about human slavery that may or may not have happened 300 years ago that we cannot do anything about today. And that's just my opinion on it. In my opinion, allegedly, whatever. And that's my rant for the day. Oh, I have seen them go nuts over. I have seen them throw acid on each other over these monuments. But I haven't seen one pimp on the street get blasted with the same acid for branding a human being that is holding somebody in slavery. It makes no sense to me. They get over here, and now they're attacking like the George Washington monuments, and it's not just Confederate monuments; it's all monuments. It goes back to the founding fathers, and they're attacking these monuments, right? George Washington Monument, the Thomas Jefferson Monument, the Benjamin Franklin monuments. It don't matter, just so long as it's a monument that can't fight back. And it's all because they may or may not, they're not sure, may or may not have owned a slave. They don't know. They were just a founding father. That's all they know. And there's a monument standing there. But now here you've got a human being that is holding human beings that has either kidnapped them, coerced them, somehow or another has lured them into the human trafficking trade, has branded them. But you say nothing about that. Tell me how that's social justice. I don't know. And you know, it's all got more rampant since the pandemic has set in, since COVID has set in. Domestic violence has escalated. Human trafficking has escalated. Everything has escalated. It's like the pandemic has just set off crazy in people's minds. Fight or flight mode, I don't know, adrenaline mode, boredom, I'm not real sure what it is. But it has set off something in people's minds. The state of Mississippi says that their biggest human trafficking problem is familial trafficking. And it's not necessarily drugs, it's paying the rent. And it's where parents is trading their children to landlords or landlords' friends to pay the rent. And that's where their studies took them during the pandemic. And I just read that article. No, I haven't. I haven't seen Vikings this season. I tried watching it the first season, and it was just like, but people's telling me it's got better as it went on. I'll have to look at that one, Valhalla. Well, it's put more kids at home. It's put more husbands and wives at home together, inseparable. I'm gonna look that up, little Dave. Definitely look into that. I'm into the Viking stuff and the mythology and all that. Some people has been with me since the beginning knows my background. When I was in college, I was struggling and I couldn't always pay my way through college, so I would take the scholarships that nobody else wanted. And a lot of times those were religion scholarships. Nobody wants the um, religion scholarships at all, especially just the 1 semester or 2 semester scholarships. And I would pick up the religion or the arts scholarships that nobody else wanted just to be able to stay in school and get my credits. So I would always take like Norse mythology and Greek mythology and stuff like that when I was in school. So I really like the mythology stuff. I like it a whole lot. every once in a while I throw y'all a story out there. I've got a couple of stories up. And if they're black screen stories, sometimes people complain and go, oh, well, the video's blank. It's just black. Well, it's meant to be a black screen bedtime story. That means put your phone down and listen to the story. There is no video. It's just a black screen story. But I'll throw y'all a story out there every once in a while. Good old Leif Erikson. Founder of America. Or so some people say. Hello there, how are you? Some people say that Leif Erikson beat Christopher Columbus to the Americas, but it never reached the history books. So, what's y'all's opinion on Grandis being there that day? Do y'all think that Grandis was with Candus and Hunter at the swim hole that day? Oh, thank you, Oreo. I appreciate that. Thank you, V. I appreciate that. Thanks so much. I hardly ever get donations on my channel, so every little bit helps. Yeah, like I said, if you go back and watch the video done just recently on WJHL, listen for the slip up, because she slips and she says, we went to Walgreens and we filled the prescription, or gave them the prescription. We waited for the prescription to be filled, and then we went to the swim hole. So she completely goes off script. And if you're not listening for it, she says it so fast you will not catch it, but she does. She says that they waited for the prescription to be filled, and then they went to Warriors. Go back and listen. And Candus has always firmly said they dropped the prescription off. They went to Warriors while they waited for the prescription to be filled. Then they come back and picked up the prescription. Then they went to the tobacco store, right? Right. That's not what Grandis says. Grandis says they filled the prescription. Then they went to Warriors. Or she thinks the horse stables was the name of it. That's what she said. And then they went to the tobacco store. So I don't think she was even there. And y'all know about the text on June the 4th that Hunter and Candus had sent back and forth, and it was like identical text to what had happened on June the 15th, right? And it was almost like a pre-planned thing. Emma at Crime Stories Obsessed has got those. The June 4th text. And Doug at No Thanks has got those. I may have the video. I don't remember what the name of the video is. The name of the video may be Before June 15th, question mark, or something to that effect. So, if it was pre-planned, I believe that she was trafficked. If it wasn't pre-planned, it was an accident. Thanks for being here, little Dave. I appreciate you. If it wasn't pre-planned, then I think she slipped and fell on the rocks that's to the right of where the TikTok video was actually shot, where they go fishing at. And where they go fishing at is just to the right of that big log where the big rocks is at the same swimming hole. But that is just in my opinion. But either way, Candus was the last adult that was with her. Candus was the last one to have eyes on her. Candus is the one that is responsible for her. So Candus, where is Summer? And guys, I have kept y'all for an hour and a half. And I appreciate y'all's patience. I appreciate all the love that y'all have gave me. Right? And Aussie, like I have said, you know, I think one reason CPS was not just really adamant about getting in the door is because it looks like Allie and Sherry would call CPS on them, and then she would call CPS on Allie and Sherry, and then they would call CPS, and it was just a back and forth game. And they were using CPS like a football. And CPS was like, oh, it's just them again, and was just leaving like notes in the door. And that they just got to the point where they weren't taking it serious. And I really believe that's why CPS had just lost interest and was just really not adamant, is because they were just constantly calling back and forth, using them like a football. Because in that video today, Jonathan Lee Ritchie's released it. Sherry says, well, she sent CPS down here because we was giving our kids weed and alcohol. Well, they turn around and they send CPS back down there, and it was just a back and forth game all the time. It was CPS, CPS, CPS. And I'm sure CPS did get to where they would just stick a card in the door just to say that they had been there. And shame on CPS for not drug testing a whole bunch of them multiple times. Thanks, Hawk. I appreciate you. Have a nice night. I'm out of here too, guys. Like I said, I'm not going to keep y'all on no 2 or 3 hour live. I hate trying to listen to somebody for that long, and I'm not going to keep you guys for that long. But I do love y'all. Without you guys sitting here listening to me, I would be talking to myself and I would be nobody. So again, thank you all. You guys rock. I love y'all and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.